The menu is a dark satire about food, art, wealth, and obsession. The story follows a group of wealthy guests who travel to an exclusive restaurant on a private island, run by celebrity chef Julian Slowik. What begins as a luxury dining experience slowly turns into something much more disturbing as each course reveals uncomfortable truths about the guests. The film begins with the guests arriving at a dock where they will take a boat to the private island. One of the guests is Tyler Ledford, a young man who is obsessed with fine dining and celebrity chefs. He has brought a woman named Margot as his date for the evening. Tyler immediately shows how passionate he is about food, talking constantly about the restaurant and the chef. Other guests begin arriving as well. There is a famous food critic named Lillian Bloom and her editor Ted. There is a wealthy older couple, Richard and Anne, who are regular customers at the restaurant. A fading movie star named George Diaz arrives with his personal assistant Felicity. 3 business partners who work for the restaurant's investor also join the group. Everyone boards a boat that will take them to Hawthorne. From the beginning, the movie introduces people who represent different groups connected to art and luxury experiences. Some of them criticize art, some of them fund it, and some of them consume it simply because they can afford it. Tyler represents obsessive fans who treat art like a sacred experience. Margot stands out because she is different from the others. She doesn't show excitement about the restaurant and seems disconnected from the world of expensive food. This difference will become very important later in the story. The guests arrive on the island and are greeted by the restaurant's strict maitre d', Elsa. She welcomes them and begins guiding them through the island before dinner begins. The tour shows the gardens where vegetables are grown, the animals raised for food, and the buildings where the kitchen staff live. Elsa explains that almost everything used in the restaurant comes directly from the island. This shows how carefully controlled the entire environment is. The restaurant isn't just a building. It is an entire system designed to support Chef Slowik's vision. During the tour, Elsa notices that Margot wasn't the guest Tyler originally reserved. This detail creates tension because the restaurant appears to be extremely organized, and any change to the plan seems unusual. This scene shows how much control Chef Slowik has over his environment. Every ingredient, every dish, and every movement inside the restaurant is carefully planned. The island itself feels like a closed world where Slowik controls everything. The moment when Elsa notices Margot was not the original guest suggests that something about the night may not go exactly as planned. Even though Slowik tries to control everything, the presence of someone unexpected could disrupt his design. The guests enter the restaurant and take their seats around an open kitchen. The staff stands in perfect lines, moving in complete coordination. When Chef Slowik enters, the entire room becomes silent. He introduces himself and explains that the evening will consist of several carefully designed courses. The first course is presented with great ceremony, and the staff serves each guest with precise movements. Tyler is extremely excited and explains every detail of the food to Margot, who seems confused by how serious everyone is about the meal. This establishes that the restaurant is more like a theater than a normal place to eat. The staff moves like performers following choreography, and Chef Slowik behaves like a director guiding the show. The guests aren't just eating food. They are watching a performance created by the chef. The movie begins questioning whether this type of dining experience is still about enjoying food, or if it has become something closer to art exhibition or entertainment for the wealthy. As the dinner continues, each course is introduced with long explanations from Chef Slowik. He describes the ideas behind the dishes and the techniques used to prepare them. The food looks extremely artistic, but the portions are very small. This part of the movie makes fun of how some people treat art and luxury experiences as a way to show their status. Many of the guests seem more interested in appearing knowledgeable than actually enjoying the food. Tyler especially represents the idea of someone who values the reputation of the experience more than the simple act of eating. Margot's confusion highlights how strange this world of elite dining can look to someone outside it. The third course introduces a shocking twist. Each guest receives a tortilla with an image laser printed on its surface. These images reveal personal secrets or embarrassing things about the people at the table. The businessman's tortilla shows that they have been stealing money from the company. George Diaz's tortilla reveals that he once starred in a terrible film that disappointed Chef Slowik. Richard's tortilla exposes that he has been unfaithful to his wife. The guests begin to feel uncomfortable as they realize that the chef knows personal details about their lives. This moment changes the tone of the movie. The dinner is no longer just a performance about food. It has become a form of judgment. Chef Slowik is using his courses to expose the moral flaws of his guests. The tortillas represent how art can reveal truths about people. However, in this case, the chef is using his art as a weapon. The guests are forced to confront their mistakes in front of everyone else. The next course becomes extremely disturbing. Chef Slowik calls one of his sous chefs, Jeremy, to the front of the dining room. Jeremy explains the dish that will be served. Suddenly, he takes out a gun and shoots himself in the head. The guests panic and begin to realize that something is very wrong with the dinner. When Richard tries to leave the restaurant, the staff violently stops him and cuts off one of his fingers as a warning to the others. Jeremy's death represents the extreme pressure within the world of high-level culinary art. Kitchens like Hawthorne demand perfection from their staff. Jeremy's suicide suggests that the environment is so intense that it breaks the people who work there. Chef Slowik soon reveals that the restaurant is funded by a powerful investor. This investor represents the business side of the industry that controls the chef's work. Slowik accuses him of interfering with the creative process and turning the restaurant into a tool for profit. To demonstrate his anger, Slowik orders his staff to drown the investor in front of the guests. The room becomes filled with fear as the guests realize that the situation is completely out of control. This scene explores the tension between artists and the people who finance their work. Investors often provide the money needed to create art, but they can also influence the creative process. Chef Slowik believes that this financial pressure destroyed his passion for cooking. However, the movie also suggests that Slowik's reaction is extreme. Instead of finding a healthier way to deal with the system, he has chosen revenge. Chef Slowik separates the men and women into two groups. The women remain inside the restaurant, while the men are given a chance to escape. They are told they can run through the forest and try to reach safety. The men quickly run into the darkness, believing they might survive. However, the kitchen staff soon catches every one of them and brings them back to the restaurant. The attempted escape turns out to be part of the chef's plan. This moment shows that the entire night has been carefully scripted. The guests believe they had a chance to escape, but in reality, they never had control over the situation. Chef Slowik finally explains the reason the guests were invited. Each person represents something that made him lose his passion for cooking. The critic represents people who destroy restaurants with their reviews. The wealthy regular customers represent people who consume expensive food without appreciating it. And the actor represents meaningless entertainment that wastes time. Slowik declares that everyone in the room will die by the end of the night. This speech reveals the main theme of the movie. Artists often create work with passion, but people can sometimes turn that work into something meaningless. Chef Slowik believes that the people in the room helped destroy the joy he once felt when cooking. The movie uses this situation to explore the complicated relationship between creators and the people who experience their work. Chef Slowik reveals that Tyler knew about the plan before coming to the restaurant. Tyler was told that the guests would die, but he still chose to attend because he wanted to experience the meal. Slowik forces Tyler to cook a dish in front of everyone. Tyler tries to prepare something impressive, but completely fails. His cooking skills don't match the knowledge he claims to have. After humiliating him, Slowik whispers something to Tyler. Tyler quietly leaves the room and later hangs himself. Tyler represents the most extreme type of fan. He cares so much about the experience of being part of the restaurant that he ignores the human cost. His obsession shows how fandom can sometimes become unhealthy. This also exposes the difference between talking about art and actually creating it. Tyler knows the language of fine dining, but he can't cook. Chef Slowik tells Margot that she was never meant to be part of the dinner. Because of this, he allows her to choose whether she will die with the guests or with the staff. Margot later sneaks into Chef Slowik's private living quarters. There, she discovers a photograph of him when he was younger. In the picture, he is smiling while cooking a simple cheeseburger. This discovery gives Margot an idea. Margot returns to the dining room and tells Chef Slowik that the food has not satisfied her. She says the dishes feel cold and without love. Instead, she asks him to cook a simple cheeseburger and fries. Chef Slowik pauses for a moment. Then he agrees to make the burger himself. As he cooks, he begins to smile. The process reminds him of the simple joy he once felt in the kitchen. The cheeseburger represents authenticity. Unlike the complicated dishes served earlier, it is simple and honest. The moment shows that true enjoyment of food doesn't require expensive ingredients or artistic presentation. This realization briefly reconnects Slowik with the passion he lost. After taking one bite of the burger, Margot asks if she can take the rest of the meal to go. Chef Slowik considers the request and finally allows her to leave the island. Margot escapes on a boat while the other guests remain inside the restaurant. Margot survives because she never pretended to understand the world of luxury dining. She approached food in a simple and honest way. This honesty allowed her to remind Chef Slowik of the joy he once felt when cooking. For the final course, Chef Slowik turns the restaurant into a giant version of a s'more dessert. The guests are covered in chocolate and marshmallow decorations while the restaurant is prepared to burn. Slowik sets the building on fire, destroying the restaurant and killing everyone inside. Meanwhile, Margot watches the fire from the boat while eating the rest of her cheeseburger. The destruction of the restaurant represents Chef Slowik's final act as an artist. He turns the entire dining experience into one last performance. By burning everything, he ends the system that made him lose his passion. Margot's simple meal on the boat contrasts with this dramatic ending. While the world of luxury dining collapses behind her, she enjoys a normal cheeseburger. The movie suggests that real satisfaction can sometimes come from simple experiences rather than luxury. The menu is not really about food. It is about what happens when passion turns into performance, and when art becomes something people consume instead of appreciate. Chef Slowik loses his love for cooking because the people around him turned it into status, money, and obsession. But through Margot, the film reminds us that sometimes the most meaningful experiences are the simplest ones. In the middle of all the luxury, symbolism, and performance, the thing that truly mattered in the end was just a good burger. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.